Greetings folks, and today on LGR, let's check out this enormous example of excellence. Yeah, I got a new arcade machine! One of my absolute top 3 favorite arcade games, Raiden 2. Or Raiden 2, actually, but we always called it Raiden growing up and old habits die hard, but yeah. Raiden 2 from 1993 by Seibu Kaihatsu, one of my all-time favorite shooters, and an arcade cabinet I've dreamed of owning ever since I was about 8 years old. Yeah, this is one of those cabinets where I always told myself if I ever got the chance to get one in half-decent shape at an acceptable price, then it would be mine. And several months ago, after I knew I was moving to a bigger place, I began looking for a suitable cabinet for shmups like Raiden 2, either an original one or one I could convert. And this is what I ended up with, which is actually a classic cabinet on its own, a Dynamo HS5. Now, from what I gather, these were manufactured for around a decade, from the end of the 80s towards the end of the 90s, and Dynamo sold them either as a standalone cabinet, where you could put any game you want in there, or they also took video game publishing contracts where they'd produce a specific cabinet using the HS9 design, with one of the most well-known examples being Street Fighter II Champion Edition, which was often built into a Dynamo HS5, at least for a while. The Street Fighter II was also installed into many other cabs over the years, both by Capcom and by arcade operators themselves, but the cut-corner Dynamo is iconic, so much so that I've actually got a 1/6 scale replica right here. Yeah, this is one of those nifty replicades by New Wave Toys. They actually sent me this one a while back, and I've gone on to buy the entire rest of the range. I'm addicted to these things. Anyway, I love that they went with a Dynamo HS5 design since, hey, now I've got a real one, and you can see how close it replicates a full-size cabinet. But yeah, the real one is my current project, and I am psyched to get this thing fixed up over the coming weeks, months, however long it takes for me to get all the parts, repairs, and upgrades that I want. So I won't be doing it all today since I simply haven't sourced everything yet. But I wanted to go over what I have fixed up, what I plan to do later, and show you the ins and outs of the machine itself, because this thing is awesome and I'm extremely excited to have it. I'm also doing this because, well, my house currently looks like this as I'm recording this voiceover since my old 1970s popcorn ceilings are being removed and walls are being repainted and all kinds of stuff. It's a right mess. It'll all be done soon, I hope, but for now, one of the areas I do have access to is my arcade wall. And yep, I still have the Missile Command Cabaret from 1982 here as well, still working great. Check out my videos on the customization and upgrades I did on that thing if you're curious. Although now it looks absolutely tiny compared to the HS5, and now I wish I had a full-sized Missile Command instead, but I digress. The Dynamo HS5 machine here, yeah, it's a beast. It stands nearly 2 meters tall at 6 foot 2 inches with its leveling feet installed, and weighs roughly 380 pounds. Which, yeah, this was not an easy thing to get inside, and thank goodness I had some solid help. My Missile Command I can just about handle with a dolly on my own, but the HS5, no way, man. Like, getting it off the truck and through the front door was doable enough, but then we had to get it upstairs, and I don't have many stairs, thankfully, but the cramped entryway and stairway made it a huge pain to maneuver in, since the machine's almost exactly as wide as the stairs. Eventually we made it through and plopped it right down in the corner where it's pretty much taken up permanent residence. I did add some furniture sliders on bottom so I can swish it back and forth and rotate it to work on things, but yeah, I have no desire to move it farther anytime soon. My plan is to have 3, maybe 4 arcade machines lining this wall eventually, since I have a bunch of arcade game PCBs I want to swap out and play in different setups. Like, sure, I can play them on their own using a supergun, which I do. I've done a video on that before if you're interested. But I really want a dedicated cabinet for both horizontal and vertical-oriented arcade games, and the latter is where this Raiden-configured Dynamo HS5 comes in. Now, you can rotate the Wells Gardner CRT assembly over to horizontal from Tate mode here. It's purpose-built to do that without much hassle, but I'd rather have a dedicated machine for each orientation. Heck, I'd be happy with another HS5 if I can find one, because these things are fantastic, better than I even thought. Like, look how easy this is to get into. You simply reach through the coin door, pull a latch to pop open the control panel, and now you have access to the inputs and main monitor adjustments. Plus, this drawer unlocks and slides out, revealing a big old tray for PCBs, so it's extremely easy to adjust settings and swap arcade boards since the JAMA harness connects right here. Not only that, but the steel control panel is ready to drop in all manner of joysticks and buttons, with up to 6 inputs per player plus 2 start buttons, all pre-drilled into the panel. Only thing needed is to cut the vinyl on top and reconfigure your buttons as desired. It's awesome. And that's only scratching the surface. There are so many nice touches here that make this thing a pleasure to work on, troubleshoot, upgrade, and generally fart around with and have fun learning the ins and outs of early 90s arcade machines. And practically everything in here is a standard part that's either still made today or it's common enough that you can still find new old stock or lightly used parts without much hassle. It's just a solid base to work off of. And on that note, yes, this was originally based on and configured as a Viper Phase 1 machine, which you can tell from this nifty little paper around back indicating how it was first put together back in 1995. But the whole idea of the HS5 and the rest of Dynamo's benchmark series from the late 80s and into the 90s is that they were highly customizable platforms ready to accept just about any arcade game whatsoever. Vertical shooter, horizontal beat-em-ups, light gun shooters, upright racing games, trackball games, spinner games, whatever, man. It's basically a beefy wooden box with a monitor, speakers, and a power supply, and it's up to you to customize the control panel and artwork, and supply an arcade board. So whether you're a company like Capcom or an independent arcade owner named Craig, you could commission a cabinet from Dynamo and have it configured just how you like, or order a bare-bones cab and put it together yourself. So really that's kind of how I'm treating this one, and why I don't feel too bad undoing its original Viper Phase 1 setup. Cause yeah, that is a great game too that I will absolutely be playing in here, but any modifications that I do to this are really reversible and surface level, and aren't ruining an original custom machine. Yeah, I'd consider it a sin to gut like an original 1980s cabinet that had its own unique design, control panel, and illustrations. Whereas in my mind, this is more like taking someone's old PC from the 90s and swapping some of the parts to make it more to my own liking, while keeping the original intent intact. The biggest reason I bought this in particular is because it's really more of an all-around Fabtech machine. The company responsible for distributing many of Seibu Kaihatsu's arcade titles in the US back in the day, including Viper Phase 1, Raiden 2, and many others, and it's exactly the type of machine that I remember playing and first fell in love with back in the 90s as a kid, with a Fabtech emblazoned Raiden 2 machine very much like this at the local skating rink. I don't recall if it was an HS5 or if it was one of these kinds of cabinets perhaps, or something else entirely, who knows. Raiden 2 was very often sold as a kit, and just installed in whatever the heck the arcade owner had lying around, not making money. Then you could easily convert an older arcade machine to a newer game with much less investment than buying an all-new cabinet. And since it uses a standard JAMA harness and connection inside, it really is as easy as unplugging one game and plugging in another one. With few exceptions, that one edge connector handles it all, from power to video to sound to controls to coin slots and so on, meaning that with this one cabinet I can now easily swap out and play a whole slew of vertical arcade games, from the entire Raiden series and its spin-offs, to classics like 1942 and Finalizer using a JAMA converter, to shady Chinese bootleg all-in-one boards and Pandora's boxes and stuff. I also want to dive into more modern options like the MrCade, Arcade SD, Ultimarket JPack, and various Piecade options, but that's all way off into the future. My core goal here really is just Raiden 2. Seriously, that's it. I simply want a solid Fabtech Raiden 2 cabinet like I remember from childhood, and luckily I was like 70% there just as it came. Viper Phase 1 already had the Fabtech artwork, and being that it was a Seibu shooter that's a Raiden spin-off, the control panel layout was already correct. With a quick swap of the marquee up top, that basically did the trick in terms of making it look legit. There's also this control overlay that goes on the monitor bezel somewhere, usually below the screen, but but it doesn't really make sense on the Dynamo HS5 since it has this lip that covers up almost half of it. And in the original Viper Phase 1 kit, the controls were printed directly onto the surrounding bezels, so yeah, what I plan on doing is getting another bezel entirely that looks the same, just without the Viper controls printed on it, or maybe go with a generic Fabtech bezel instead. And then I could just plop the appropriate control sheet on there wherever, and swap it out with other games as needed. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. The one thing I have decided is to redo every one of the inputs. This thing saw countless hours of use and abuse in a Midwest arcade from 1995 to 2011 or so, resulting in a tired, worn-out machine all over. I knew from the seller before I bought it that the joysticks barely worked, and yeah, it was all awful. A friend and I tested it out when I first got it home, finding that not only were the joysticks awful, but every one of the buttons were sticky, mismatched, and unreliable. Which is fine, since I already had a pile of parts from a previous arcade build that I'd planned on making into a video years ago, but never finished. Anyway, my first inclination was to use these Sanwa sticks, since I love the way they feel, and I like the option of restrictor gates, but the size and connection isn't perfectly suited to this HS5 cabinet, not without some modding. So instead I went with some of these that I had on hand, the classic HAP competition style sticks and buttons that the HS5 was designed to use. I know there's a mixture of Industrious Lorenzo and Suzo HAP parts in here. I don't recall what's what since it's been so long since I bought most of this, and I do know that I'll be using these 75-gram Cherry micro switches for all the buttons. Nice and clicky. And yeah, if you've never done this, it really isn't as complicated as it may appear. Every switch has a connection for input and ground, so it's simply a matter of unscrewing the old crap and plugging in the new crap in the same spots and hooking it back up. I did label the wires to make a quicker job of keeping track of everything, but that's just for convenience of not having to look it up later. Also, while I was at it, I went ahead and removed all the bolts from the plexiglass overlay, which was super nasty when I got it, and either needed replacing or removing entirely. I've opted to just leave it off for now, as I'm not the biggest fan of plexi on my control panels. The vinyl Fabtech overlay itself may be something I'll replace in the future if I can find one that looks correct with the right darker gray logos on it. Though I don't really mind the worn out patina here, in fact I kinda like it. Oh, and I'm also mounting the joystick dust covers under the panel instead of on top. It still does its job of keeping crap out, just it's underneath instead of up above. Simply an aesthetic choice, I don't know, it's easy to change later if I don't like it. And there we go. A quick I/O test reveals everything is hooked up properly and working great. Ah man, this really does just feel like a new machine, at least to the hands. To the eyes, not so much. That CRT in there is just as worn out and tired as the rest of it. Impressively no burn-in, and the image is actually rather sharp, but the brightness and contrast are low, and the color is iffy, with the red in particular being the most off. Getting inside to adjust the RGB and sharpness pots is easy enough. Simply unscrew this wood panel, and everything is revealed. Inside is a 25-inch monitor, I believe a K7000 if what I've looked up is correct. But yeah, while adjustment helped a bit, no matter what, things are simply still a little off in terms of color, brightness, and so on. A recap of the logic board and a new flyback would no doubt help, but I really would not mind either a CRT rejuvenation or an all-new tube entirely. None of which I have the option of doing at this exact moment in time, but it's something I fully plan on tackling in the future. Still, even as it is in its well-loved state, this is an honest-to-goodness dream come true. A real-life Fabtech arcade cabinet running right into in my house. Yeah, it's just neat. I still have a lot more I'll be doing to fix this up, like the aforementioned monitor and control panel work, but also things like the coin door. I really love having that functional, and if nothing else I want it lit up with new bulbs. And the side panels, they're kind of ugly, almost like they've been spray painted or at the very least got worn down in random spots. I'm not aware of Raiden 2 ever officially having side art, but I've seen some online that might look nice, or maybe I'll design my own Fabtech art, who knows. All I know for sure is I cannot truly express just how excited and childishly happy this thing makes me, and I'm having a lot of fun just messing around with it as it is. And like I've said a few times now, Raiden 2 is just one of my favorite all-time arcade games, favorite shooters, favorites of many different things. Yeah, I've put off reviewing this game, simply because I wanted to either get access to a machine or get one myself so I could show the arcade original compared to ports like the PC version and stuff like that. But now that I finally have one, or I'm getting close to having one that's complete, I can do that stuff and just, oh man, there's a journey ahead, and I hope that you stay tuned because I do plan on doing a follow-up to this once I get more things fixed up. And if nothing else, yeah, I hope that you enjoyed seeing what we've got going so far. But yeah, stick around for more videos. There's always more stuff in the works at some point here on LGR. And as always, thank you for watching.